and welcome to studying for your O's and P's Powerplant. Today we are going to go over reciprocating engines oral questions. Let's begin with question 1. On an engine with a fixed pitch propeller, what is the relationship between manifold pressure and RPM? As RPM increases, MAP increases. What lever is used to adjust the manifold pressure in a reciprocating engine? Throttle lever. What is the running valve clearance on engines equipped with hydraulic lifters? 0. What should be done to a nose wheel airplane before removing the engine? Support the tail of the airplane. Where is a crack most likely to occur on a piston? A crack is most likely to occur where the piston wrist pin connects. The metal is thinnest at this location. What would a cold cylinder indicate? That there has been no combustion inside the cylinder, normally due to no ignition or a clogged fuel nozzle. What is engine sudden speed reduction? This occurs when the propeller strikes an object but continues to run. When this occurs, a thorough internal engine inspection should be carried out, including an oil analysis. The propeller should be also inspected along with a run-out check. What cylinder is engine to magneto timing based on? The number 1 cylinder. Timing is usually set around 30 degrees before top dead center of the compression stroke. What are the main causes of a cylinder having low compression? Broken piston rings, rings that are not seating properly, burnt valves, and poor seating valves. What instrument can be used to check a cylinder bore for out of roundness? A cylinder bore can be checked with a dial indicator, a telescope gauge and micrometer, or an inside micrometer. How can a cold cylinder be located on a double-row radial engine? A cold cylinder check can be made with a cold cylinder indicator, sometimes called a magic wand, to locate any cylinder that has a temperature lower than the normal operating temperature of other cylinders. What can be learned about the condition of an engine by studying the results of a compression check? From the cylinder compression check, you can determine if the valve, piston rings, and pistons are adequately sealing and the combustion chamber. Start over. What can be learned about the condition of an engine by studying the results of a compression check? From the cylinder compression check, you can determine if the valve, piston rings, and pistons are adequately sealing the combustion chamber. During valve clearance adjustment on an R2800 engine, why must you depress certain valves other than the ones being adjusted? The valves must be depressed, unloaded, in order to remove the spring tension from the side positions on the cam and thus permit the cam to slide away from the valves to be adjusted until it contacts the cam bearing. This prevents cam shift from introducing errors in clearance settings. What is detonation? Normal combustion is when fuel-air mixture burns at a uniform rate across the combustion chamber. The temperature and pressure within the cylinders rises at a normal rate as the mixture burns. All fuels have critical limits of temperature and compression, and beyond the limit, they will ignite spontaneously and burn with explosive violence. This instantaneous explosive burning of the last portion of the charge is called detonation. How would you make a run-out check on a crankshaft that is still installed in the engine? Remove the propeller from the shaft and attach a dial indicator gauge to the front of the crankcase. Adjust the position of the gauge needle so that it is touching the shaft. Turn the engine through the starter and note any changes in the gauge reading. What is the purpose of crankshaft dynamic dampeners used in aircraft engines? Dampeners are used to overcome forces which cause deflection of the crankshaft and torsional vibration. These forces are generated by the power impulses of the pistons. Crankshaft vibrations are reduced by placing floating dampeners weights in the counterweight assembly, particularly in a single throw type crankshaft. What type of inspection must be made after sudden stoppage of an engine due to striking an object? Most manufacturers require a complete engine teardown and inspection. The propeller drive shaft must be checked for misalignment and the propeller checked for track. What causes engine sudden stoppage? Striking an object or engine seizure due to internal damage. What is the purpose of using valves with sodium-filled stems? Some intake and exhaust valve stems are hollow and partially filled with metallic sodium. Sodium is used because it is an excellent heat conductor. The sodium melts at a relatively low temperature, about 208 degrees Fahrenheit, and the movement of the valve circulates the liquid sodium, which enables it to carry the heat from the valve head to the stem, where it is dissipated through the valve guide to the cylinder head and cooling fins. Describe the inspection you would give the valve springs during engine overhaul. They should be cleaned thoroughly and then visually inspected for evidence of overheating, cracks, broken ends, and for compression strength. What is the purpose of valve overlap? Valve overlap permits better volumetric efficiency and lowers the cylinder operating temperatures. What is the purpose of using more than one spring for valve closing? Valve springs will resonate or surge at certain engine speeds. If only one spring is used to close the valve, it will vibrate or surge at certain speeds. To eliminate this difficulty, 2 or more springs, one inside the other, are installed on each valve. Each spring will vibrate at different engine speed, and the spring surge vibrations will be dampened. 2 or more springs also reduce the danger of weakness and possibly failure by breakage due to heat and metal fatigue. What is the indication of valve blow-by? Valve blow-by is indicated by a hissing or whistle when pulling the propeller through prior to starting the engine. A cylinder compression check should be made to identify the faulty cylinder. What type of bearings are in general use in reciprocating engines? Plain, roller, and ball bearings. Plain bearings, which are generally used for crankshaft, cam ring, camshaft, connecting rods, and accessory drive shaft bearings. Roller bearings, which are used for supercharger impeller shaft bearings, rocker arm bearings in some engines, and as propeller thrust bearings. What type of piston rods are commonly found in radial engines? A master and articulating rod assembly. What may be the result of installing piston rings incorrectly? Excessive oil consumption. What is the purpose of oil control rings? They are used to control the thickness of the oil film on the cylinder walls. What are the different types of piston rings? Compression rings, oil control rings, and scraper rings. How are conventional reciprocating engines classified? They are classified according to cylinder arrangement with respect to the crankshaft, inline, V-type, radial, and opposed, or according to method of cooling, liquid or air-cooled.